I'm Jesse Shell, the CEO of Shell Games.
Jesse, what are you showing here at GDC?
We're showing I Expect You to Die, which has been a very successful VR title for us. Something we're very excited about, and we're going to be developing new content for in 2019.
So for people who haven't heard about this game, I personally played it. It's one of my favorite VR games. Talk a little about what this game's all about.
Yeah, so this is a spy game where you are caught in a series of different death traps, and you need to find your way out of them using your own cleverness and the objects that are around you. It's sort of like a super James Bond kind of style escape room.
What's great about this game is it takes place in VR, and you're usually always stagnant. You're in a car or on like a scaffolding or trying to figure out what to use around you.
Yeah, definitely. We try to kind of get really classic spy scenes. So there's a part in a submarine, and there's a part in the villain's lair, and there's a part in like a super spy car. And it's interesting because it's always seated because we want people to be comfortable and kind of take their time. But there's so many interesting things to kind of manipulate and play with. We just had a beautiful time making that game.
You guys are one of the first kind of pioneers to make like a game as popular in Oculus Rift. What's it been like for your studio since then?
Yeah, I mean, I Expect You to Die has done great on the Rift and the Vive and PSVR, but we've been doing a lot of other things. And right now, one of the things we're really pumped about is a new game called Until You Fall, which is sword fighting in VR.
So, like, how you guys do? I know it's hard to explain what you do in VR without experiencing it, but what do you do in this game? Because sword fighting in VR sounds like a dream come true.
Oh, we are just so pumped about it. We've spent a lot of time figuring out what is the right way to make sword fighting feel as exciting and real as possible. So this is a game about fighting all kinds of different weird kind of magical enemies. This is a dual wielding game, so you have different weapons in each hand. And part of what's so great about it is we simulate all these different fighting styles, and we found clever ways to make axes feel very different than like a dagger, very different than a sword. So there's all these different ways to experiment and try different fighting styles, and then of course the weapons have magic powers on top of that. So there's a lot of exciting strategy and depth in it.
The challenging thing in VR is to give a sense of weight to something, especially with weapons. Talk about how you just talked about it a little bit, but emphasize a little bit more on it.
Yeah, no, getting the right weight on weapons is so crucially important, and we found ways that we can simulate it based on the way the weapons move and the way they react to your emotions. We've been really pleased at how we're able to kind of get that simulation, because it ends up being a real trade-off, because we've been able to make axes feel much heavier and slower than daggers feel, and that makes a big difference because it means I can do more damage with a big axe, but like I can block more easily with a quick dagger. So it's funny because some people like too light weapons, some people like too heavy weapons. I like to, personally, I'm all about a big heavy sword in one hand and a super light magic dagger in the other, so I can kind of, I've trained myself so I can do all my blocking with my left hand and then get in really powerful strokes with the big sword. But really, there's so many choices and options that we're really pumped about this game.
What did your studio learn from Expect You to Die going into this new game?
Yeah, so we learned a lot about playtesting, like making things really accessible for people. But one of the things we learned, even though I Expect You to Die is sold really well and people have a really good time playing it, one of the things we learned is it's a hard game to make new content for, because just those new levels take a long time. This game, we tried to make something that is much more replayable, because I Expect You to Die is a puzzle game. We love it, but it's not super replayable. But this game, Until You Fall, is going to be very replayable, and we're going to be able to drop new content into it much more easily. So we're looking at it as something that can grow and change much more rapidly. I Expect You to Die is still growing and changing. We're adding more content to it and kind of going to keep growing with more levels. But Until You Fall, we expect to be able to grow like much, maybe on a monthly basis, as opposed to like every few months like we do with I Expect You to Die.
Yeah, you can't really procedurally generate puzzles.
No way. No, you got to design puzzles by hand, and you got to design them wrong, and you got to test them and test them and test them and fix them and fix them and fix them and polish and polish and polish to really get that stuff right. It does take time, so that's why we got excited about like let's do something that has a little more randomly generated content and a little more depth of strategy and more focused on replayability. So together, we love them as like a nice complement, because they really complement each other nicely.
How are you guys handling locomotion in your game, if there is any?
Yeah, there is locomotion, and locomotion's a big deal, very tricky. And we've come up with ways that we feel really good about to make locomotion feel comfortable and powerful, because this whole thing is about being a powerful sword guy. So we have a mixture of slow locomotion, where we use techniques that keep the motion sickness at a near zero, and then we also have these really fast techniques that let you make you feel really powerful as you interact with enemies.
So I have to ask, it's a sword fighting game, and HTC Vive has that tracker. Did you guys mess around with that thing at all, thinking about peripherals for the game?
Yeah, we've definitely thought about peripherals, but like you don't want to, in one day, that may be a thing. There are dangers with peripherals. You got a long sword, like you get the cool feeling of weight, but you end up smashing stuff. That part's not great. The thing we've been pleased with is that using kind of standard VR trackers and coming up with the right techniques, we really can make it feel like these weapons are real and in your hands. And so we're pumped about this.
You guys have been working at all with like the VR arcades? You know, wireless VR is a thing now. They actually have like big rooms with a bunch of sensors. That I think they have one in Vegas where you can actually like go into these games and physically move around a holodeck essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've worked on VR stuff for ages. I worked on the Disney Quest stuff back in the 90s. So
you're one of the first.
Yeah, I mean, I've been 27 years now doing VR or something, and like literally I started in 92. So yeah, so I've watched a lot of that stuff over the years. We haven't done any of that arcade stuff yet because we don't quite see exactly how to make it profitable, but as those centers start to become more established, it might start to work. We are talking about, hey, could we take our sword game and like bring it to kind of an arcade setting, and maybe that'll be a thing. But right now we're really focused on let's get these games out solid and deliver them for the home.
How do advances in technology like, you know, Oculus has Go and now Quest and HTC Vive Pro, how does that affect your development cycle, if at all?
Yeah, we are pumped about the Quest. It is really feeling like that is a platform. We've been experimenting with it. That is a platform that is going to be very successful, I think, in the home. It's got the right set of features. It works really well. The price point feels great. So it's something we're taking very seriously. We're going to be watching it, sort of see how it goes. And hopefully, you know, at some point we'll have some announcements about it.
As a veteran in the VR development space, I'd love to get your thoughts on AR. Is that something you'd want to tackle eventually, or just your opinion on it in general?
Yeah, no, we love AR too. We have done some different AR development. There's not a lot of AR that works really well for the consumer market right now. So I think it is coming. Personally, I'm a big believer in VR headsets with pass-through cameras for AR. I think that's actually going to start to be a big deal when people see how powerful an experience that can be. And so I think AR is its own thing, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do stuff with it. It's just a couple of years away.
So when does your game come out? What platforms will it be releasing on, and where can people find more information about it?
Gotcha. So I Expect You to Die, of course, is out right now on Rift, on Vive, on PSVR. Until You Fall, we have not fully decided the exact set of platforms for that yet, but there are going to be announcements about that forthcoming. Anybody who goes to the Shell Games website, checks out Until You Fall, you can sign up for updates. No problem on that. The game's definitely coming out in 2019, and we'll have more information about exactly what platforms pretty soon.
So, like, were you able to get it on the go by any chance? Because I know that a lot of developers are struggling because it's a wireless all-in-one headset, but the lack of power is kind of difficult to try to make something for it.
Yeah, for the Go, we're not focusing on the Go right now because we really need the 6DoF hand tracking. That's really crucial, and so that the Go is definitely not one of the platforms on our list right now.